Hey guys, what's going on? My name's Andy Clements and welcome to the Muscle Building Secrets podcast. This is the first ever episode of the Muscle Building Secrets podcast and I'm so excited to have you guys join me. For you guys that are new, that you don't know who I am, I'm Andy Clements. I'm going to be your host. We're going to be launching this Muscle Building Secrets podcast every single day from now until the end of time. And the goal of this podcast is to give anybody who wants it amazing, short, quick, snappy tips to help you guys build more muscle and strength. Is that okay? Would that be cool with you guys? So that's the goal of this podcast. This podcast is for anybody who wants to build more muscle and strength, whether you're a complete beginner, you've never set foot in a gym before, and you just kind of think, oh God, I want to be able to be a little bit more informed, be a little bit more educated and not just kind of go in blind. Because if you've never been in a gym before, even to us guys who want to get bigger and stronger, kind of be a bit of an intimidating place, even though I don't like to admit it. So I want to give you guys the sort of empowerment and the knowledge to be able to go in the gym, know exactly what you want to do, know exactly how you need to train, and then go and do it, right? Because it's all good having all the knowledge and all the gear and no idea, right? You need to get in the gym. You need to execute on what you know. So in these little short, snappy videos, and if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the video version. If you're watching on, if you're listening on a podcast platform like iTunes or Spotify or anything like that, then you're going to be able to see, you're going to be able to hear me. Sorry, I'm covering my, I can tell I've done this before. I'm covering my camera. That's not very good. So what I want to do in this podcast, in this first podcast, is just give you guys who never heard me before a little bit of an introduction to me, who I am. So my name is Andy Clements and I have been knocking around gyms for 12 years now. I've also been a one-to-one physique coach for the last 7 years. So I've been working with, thousands, it must be thousands by now, of men just like you who want to build more muscle and strength. And it's awesome, right? So what I'm going to do in this podcast is give you guys a little bit of an intro into those last 12 years and give you guys like a sort of a decade in a 10-minute video, and hopefully over the next few months, day by day, I can pull some of the lessons I've learned out of that decade and give you some awesome insights. So I'll take you back to 2009, which is when I first set foot in a gym, which is 12 years ago now. Okay, so it's a long time for me. So I was the skinniest kid ever back then. I was like, if you guys saw a picture of me, and maybe I'll share one on YouTube at some point in the future. Back in 2009, I was like 16, 17 years old, and you've seen noodles that are bigger than my arms at that point, right? I was just like so skinny, there was nothing on me. And that really bothered me. Not only because I couldn't like fill out my t-shirts, and I felt like I was like skinnier and smaller than all the other lads at my age or lads around me. I didn't have any confidence with the opposite sex. I couldn't go up to a girl and talk to her. I know loads of teenagers like that anyway, but I kind of felt like this is like crushing, right? And the other really big thing for me was I was massive into my football, right? So I used to play football like nearly every day, and definitely every weekend, like for hours on end. Me and a few group of friends of mine, we would go and play football for hours at our local like five-a-side pitches. And because I was so like skinny and so weak, I used to get bullied off the ball all the time by kids that like they weren't muscular, they weren't big, they weren't built, but they were bigger than me. And as soon as I'd go up in like a 50-50 against them, I'd just get flattened. So that really, it might sound silly, but like to a 16, 17-year-old kid, that really bothered me. And we played competitively as well. And when you're 17, 18 years old, going up against 25, 26, 27-year-olds, and you've got nothing on you, you're like flattened into the fence every single time, right? So I was like, man, I need to do something about this. So at the age of about 16, 17, I started going to the gym for the first time. And it was actually a few friends of mine that like said, we're going to the gym, do you want to come along? I was like, yes, I want to go to the gym. I want to get massive. I want to get bigger. I want to get stronger. So I thought that was going to be it. I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to get strong, I'm going to get big. That's all you need to do. It's not, you don't need to put any thought into it. So I started going to the gym all of once a week, right? That's how long I spent in the gym. I spent one night a week in the gym, me and probably about 5 of my mates. So we were the group of 16-year-olds everyone hates in the gym. We were the people that were like hogging, like one machine, spending half an hour on it because we're all taking turns. There's like 6 of us, right? That was us, okay? And that was when we were like 16. And yeah, we used to go once a week, and then for like 3 hours, spend 3 hours doing chest and biceps, because as you do, right? And then after we finished that, we'd go over the road to the McDonald's that was over the road from the gym, and we'd spend 3 hours in McDonald's as well. So it was a 6-hour gym session. Half of that was spent in McDonald's. So that was how we did things. And it may surprise you to know that I got no results whatsoever. I absolutely failed in my muscle building goal. My grand plans to be the biggest and strongest guy on the football pitch, the guy that had all the confidence with the girls, I completely failed, right? And it took me probably a year to figure out that wasn't working, right? I was flexing at myself in the mirror and nothing was looking different. So at that point, my friends were sort of like starting to, friends that didn't go to the gym were starting to, make fun of me because I wasn't getting anywhere with my grand plans of being Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? And they started to call me Muscles, which is a name that stuck because at the time I had no muscle, and they thought it'd be funny to call me Muscles because I had no muscle, because everybody knows your mates only call you the things that piss you off, right? So yeah, that stuck, and that was my name. That still is my name amongst certain people, is Muscles, because I had no muscle, right? And that's how bad it was. So I got to like 18 years old. I'd been doing this stuff for like 2 years now. I went to the gym when I was 16. I did start going a little bit more often. I started going 2, 3, 4 days a week. And at one point I was even like going every day, right? So my friends all started like dropping off, started going to university and started going off and doing their own thing. And I was like, I want to figure this muscle building game out. So I started going like 4, 5, 6 and then 7 days a week because I thought, well, obviously I need to go more. I need to do more. Didn't call the McDonald's out. That was like, no way, right? And I spent 2 years doing that. I got to 18 years old and I was like, I'm stuck. I've made no progress, or barely any progress. If there was some progress, it was minimal. You had to kind of look really hard, like convince yourself in the mirror, oh my God, yeah, my chest, I think my chest is looking bigger, yeah. No, it wasn't. So I kind of wasted those 2 years in the gym, but and I got really, really frustrated. And I kind of came to the conclusion, like maybe I need to do some research. Maybe I need to stop, just thinking that I know it all at 16, 17, 18 years old, and actually admit that I need some help on this stuff. So I decided to start to do some research. And at that point, I stumbled across an old bodybuilding website. And some of you guys who have been into the muscle and strength building game for a little while might remember this website. I think it is still a thing. And it's called bodybuilding.com. It was like the OG of muscle building back in the day, back in 2009, 2010. That was where you went if you wanted to build muscle. It was like the one website, okay? And I stumbled across a program from a guy called Chris Gethin, who was from Wales, and he's still around. I still follow him sometimes. He's a cool guy, and he had like a program on bodybuilding.com called Chris Gethin's 12-week workout trainer or something like that. And it was a cool program that you could follow along. You could like watch videos every day, and you had diet plans and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, right, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it. So I followed it to the letter. I did 12 weeks and I absolutely followed every little tiny thing he said. I was like, I'm going to do this. And then I was researching and I was making sure that I knew why he was saying everything. And I started to learn. I started to develop this learning mindset, right? Which is so, so important if you want to get better at anything in life, muscle building included. So I followed it to the letter and I started to learn these frameworks that later in life, I didn't know this at the time, but later in life I was going to develop into my own kind of systems, and I was going to, take the bits that worked and throw away the bits that I didn't like so much and didn't work for me so much. But I started to learn these frameworks. And I ended up getting in like the best shape of my life. Like at the end of the 12 weeks, my physique was like unrecognizable. I ended up, going from a guy with barely any muscle, even though he worked every day of the week, and, a kind of like a skinny fat frame, if you know what I mean, to a guy, all right, I wasn't the biggest guy, I actually lost weight because I lost all the fat off my but I ended up developing the muscle at the same time, and I was like, wow, like I can actually see my muscle. I've lost all this fat, I've built all this muscle, and okay, I'm not the biggest guy, but I've developed a lot of strength. I'm no longer getting bullied on the football pitch, and I was kind of like out of that initial pain that spurred me on to go to the gym. You know what I mean? Can you imagine being in that much pain that you're like, okay, I want to get out of it, I want to stop getting bullied off the ball at football. I want to develop the confidence to approach a girl in a bar, or when I first started going to school. That's how young I was. And then spending 2 years trying to get out that pain and not doing it, and then suddenly stumbling across this this program, dropping your ego enough to actually listen to somebody else's advice, and then getting in amazing shape. That instantly, by then, that proved to me that studying and learning from people who've been there and done that more and more frequently and for longer than you have was beneficial. And you needed to sort of drop your ego if you want to get anywhere with this muscle building game, right? Which I've started to realize since is kind of the whole thing about life as well, like business or work or career or relationships or anything. You'd never know enough. You never know enough that you don't need to take on advice from people who've been doing it longer or better than you, right? So that's one of the reasons I'm starting this podcast. Is I wanted to share some of the things that I've learned for the guys that are just starting out, or the guys that've been not doing it as long as I have. I feel like, because I learned from these guys early on, I feel like I've almost got a duty to share my stuff with the guys who were in my position and haven't stumbled across anything like this to this point, right? So if you resonate at any point with that little backstory there, then this podcast is definitely going to be for you. So let me take you and resume the story there that we were going through from like 2009, 2010, when I was like 17, 18 years old. So at this point, I got into the best shape of my life. I was really, really happy with my physique. I wasn't necessarily very big, but I'd lost all the body fat, so I could see my abs. That was massive for me. I was like, oh my God, I've actually got abs. At one point, I didn't think I had any abs, right? So at this point, I'd got in a good shape, and I was like, right, I want to go really deep, and I want to see how far I can take this thing. So I started going deep on like the science and the art of training. I started like developing my own systems. I started hiring mentors and coaches. I started going to seminars and workshops, took courses, and I experimented with everything. I did the hard yards, okay? And I started seeing what worked and seeing what didn't, and plugging things in and taking things out and seeing what my body responded to with nutrition, with recovery, with training, with everything that you need to add in to have a great physique naturally, right? And the biggest thing that I realized was that you don't have to spend all day in the gym, A, and B, you don't have to train every single day of your life, right? In terms of training, that was the biggest two realizations I had, because when I was first going to the gym, my answer to everything was more is better, more is better, more is better. And so we'll probably talk about that in a future podcast over the next few weeks or so, that you really don't need to spend all day in the gym. But that was the biggest realization that I had. So I ended up transforming my physique. I ended up putting, over the years, putting more and more muscle on, putting more and more strength on, and going on the football pitch from being this guy who every time he went into a challenge with somebody, a 50-50 with somebody, he'd get flattened, to being the guy that was doing the flattening, right? So I some points I can remember, like in my early 20s, I couldn't believe that I was winning all these challenges, because I'd been used to getting shoved off the ball so easily that I became the guy in these leagues that, like, we sort of grew up with other teams in these leagues, in these competitive leagues at football. And I ended up, from being the guy that everybody knew they could go in on and win a challenge, I was the guy that everybody didn't want to mark, right? I was the guy that everybody didn't want to go near, because they knew that they weren't going to come out on top most of the time anyway. They knew that they weren't going to come out on top when they get into a 50-50 with me, because I built up my strength to such an extent, I could just push them off the ball with ease. And that was like so massive for me. There was other things as well, like I developed my confidence enough to speak to women. I got a girlfriend, and there was other massive things. I was able to wear different kind of clothes. I was able to wear like tighter fitting t-shirts and not feel self-conscious because my arms and everything just looked so skinny. And things just sort of took off for me from there. Other things happened along the way, which we'll talk about again in future episodes. Don't want to keep this too long. We're going about 15 minutes now. But other things happened along the way. Like, I started my coaching business in 2014, and I got the privilege and the honor of helping thousands of men who were in the same position I was 5 years earlier to break through that initial resistance and actually start putting some muscle and strength on and seeing some results, and able to motivate them to go on to bigger and better things. So that's a brief intro. That's a brief sort of intro into where I came from, where my origin story was. And I hope that resonates with any of you. If it does, any part of that story resonates with you, if you're on YouTube, drop me a comment below, or you know, if I don't know if you could drop comments on podcasts, but let me know in some way. Email me info@andyclementsfitness.co.uk and let me know. And definitely subscribe to this podcast, because this is what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be going deep on every element of building muscle and strength, whether it's training, whether it's nutrition, whether it's recovery, whether it's myth busting, whether it's cardio, anything that will have a bearing and an impact on you building more muscle and strength. We're going to go deep on in this podcast. So I hope that sounds like something that's going to be interesting for you, something that's going to be enjoyable for you, and something that's going to help you get out of the place you're in right now, like I got out of the place I was in by listening to other people back in 2009. So thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for being here in the Muscle Building Secrets podcast. And don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, on iTunes, on Spotify, wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching. And I will see you next time for another episode of the Muscle Building Secrets podcast.